Ken, welcome to Espresso Shots. My name is John, filling from the Cottage Coffee House in beautiful downtown Westport on this wet kind of November day. Cheers.
Cheers, yeah. 'Tis the season, right? Coming into the...
It is the season.
Last couple of months before Christmas.
Yeah, well, really, 2 months.
Delicious. That's really rich, huh?
It is. So this is espresso from Vancouver, 49th parallel. It's our darkest blue sky espresso.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite music festivals, Blue Skies.
In Sharbert Lake area.
Yeah, Clarendon Station.
Yes. I've never been, but I've heard about it.
In fact, Oscar Graf, who used to own the land that Blue Skies is on, has moved to Westport.
Oh, has he?
He's a guitar maker and I guess a luthier. And yeah, he's moved here. He's on Wayland Street.
Okay.
In the house that the Kadrinkos once owned, and yeah, little ranch, right behind the brick.
Okay.
Well, knock on his door and say hello.
I should get him in here. So if you're watching this. I want to hear a bit about you and your stories, and I want to hear one of your best stories of Westport and why you're here and what you embrace and what you love about Westport. That's what I want to hear.
I do have an interesting story how I got to Westport. I was living in Ohio, and I was traveling around selling my artwork. I was the Sandman and doing my sand designs. And I met a guy at a show in Ottawa, and it was Brian Mantrop. Kathy Cashman and Brian Mantrop own the Enchanted Forest studio down on McAndrews Road. And it's a fantastic home with gardens, and they both did fantastic. He did photography from his travels all around the world and locally. And he said, come to Westport, come to my house. You got to come to my house. And I said, and he told me a little about it. And I said, oh, yeah, sure. But I didn't have time that year because I had a schedule. And then the next year, I saw him at the same art show, and he said, come to Westport. And he said that about 3 or 4 times over the years. And then finally, maybe in the 5th year, he said, if you don't come, I'm never inviting you again. And so I said, I have a week between this show and my next one in Toronto, and I'll come. So he gave me directions, and I remember coming down the hill from Perth.
Right.
And I was so blown away by that iconic view of Westport. And I knew he was a vegetarian. So I stopped at what was then the Sutherland's Tea House, where the dentist has his office.
Okay.
It used to be a tea house in the 80s. And this must have been mid to the end of the 80s, like maybe 86 or 7. And I stopped there. I got something to eat, because I didn't trust myself to go and eat vegetarian for 5 days, or as long as I was there. And so I went there, and he lived down this 7-kilometer road, McAndrew Road. It was really small at the time, and I thought, I'll never turn around. I had a truck and a trailer, and I thought, I'll never turn around here. And finally I got there, and it was so fantastical, his house. It was like a pagoda, glass on the upper levels, and all handmade. Hardly a square in the whole place, anything that was square. All incredible work, beautiful. And then the next day, we did peas. We put them in the ground. It must have been early May, and he took me for. He said, "Let's go for like a hike." So we started to walk down the trail, and then Brian had this thing where he would act like a deer, and he'd start running through the deer trails, running up and down. So we ran. By the time we got to Devil Lake, it was hot. It was a nice spring day, And he said, man, you want to do something great? I said, sure. He said, take off your clothes. He goes, and just jump in that lake. He said, you will not believe how good that feels, you know. So I ripped off, you know, my T-shirt, my shorts, and I jumped in the lake. The minute my toes hit that water, I realized that this was probably the worst decision I had ever made. It was like just my toes felt like, oh my God, it's freezing. And I got down to my chest, and it felt like somebody took a belt and tightened it. I was going, every muscle tightened, you know, like I was like, and by the time my toes and my ankles hit the water, I was like a cartoon character trying to, you know, change, getting out of the water. And by the time I got my body in, my body was already facing the shore. And I remember, you know, reaching up and grabbing myself out and laying on the ground. I mean, I was bloody from rocks going on, you know, but I'm like, and Brian is just laughing in the background, you know. I mean, the ice must have just gone out like weeks earlier, but I had such a great stay there. And years later, Isadora and I were married, and Kizzy was just about to be born, and we went to visit Brian. It was in 1992, and on the way back, we saw a piece of land for sale across from what now is Summit Sound on McAndrews Road.
Right.
It was 3 acres for $8,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and Lois Lemke was the realtor. We had her husband build a house for us, Larry Lemke, and live there and moved there when my son was about a week or two old. We pulled our trailer up and watched the house being built, and been here ever since. And you know, I've loved it. I think this is the most fortunate fork in the road I ever took. You know, having my family here, remarrying with Deborah, and being with her, and
your soul,
business.
and your whole being is in the
I'm
in
all
the village.
in.
You're
I'm
all
in.
Yeah.
This is I'd recommend this for anybody, this town for anybody. It's such good people. You know, you can get an argument or disagreement. I don't mean even an argument, but disagreement about anything here. And hopefully you realize there's so much more. And I mean, people have been so supportive of my stores, of myself, of my family, of my life, of you know, the unfortunate things that have happened. People stood up throughout this village, and I think this is one of the greatest places to live. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on camera. Yeah. I say this every day. I mean, I really believe it's...
I agree. It's kind of like a cradle. I find at Westport, we'll let you do what you want to do. And if you want to argue with people, that's just a conversation being had at a different level. And most people get over an argument unless you're ridiculous. Yes. And then you don't get over an argument. Yeah. But it's like a cradle. It kind of always catches you. And if something's going well, they'll embrace you and pat you on the back. If something's going poor, they'll do whatever they can to help you out as well. So all really important things. But I like the part in your story when you're having to be convinced to come to Westport, and you've got to make time for it. It's like, I'm a busy man. I don't have time to be going to Westport. And then you finally make the plunge, I'll call it the plunge, into Westport, and you realize, wow, what a great invite that I had. What a great opportunity I had. And you took it, and here you are today.
Well, it changed my life, right? And you know, the one thing I don't think we realize in our day-to-day life is the impact we can have on others.
I agree.
I think just a smile when you're going by somebody, you know, saying hello, how we can help each other. I think we don't realize it. And I know like with Brian, before he passed away, I told him, you know, how much he changed my life, you know, how much he influenced me. And I think I could say that to almost every person that I see, because we don't realize, like I say, how much we all bring each other up. When we're down, we influence people. When another person is up, they influence us.
And we stick together as well.
And we stick together.
We're pretty tight knit.
Oh yeah, you know, like I could have a disagreement with, let's say, the council of somebody, but that these people step up and do and take the job and do it. Well, we all owe them a huge thanks, because they have to vote one way or another.
Right.
And they're doing it. Like this, as an example, the marijuana issue. I don't care which way they go. I mean, that's their decision. You know, I might want something different or think it's better, but it may not be. You know, I don't care. You know, there's important things in life, and there's things that aren't important.
Yeah. But the people that cross your path are crossing your path for a reason, and sometimes just to stop and understand what's going on is a different level of thinking. And a lot of people often don't do that. They're in their day-to-day living, and they don't get to that lower level of what's really happening here, right? And I like that kind of thinking. I like the fact that you can just kind of think about it at a different way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways of thinking about things, right? We all have a different perspective, and I guess we have to respect whatever perspective people are going. You know, I happen to come from a family that was big. I grew up with my aunt and uncle and my parents in the same house. So I had the cousins there living with me, and I had a lot of influences. And because there were two families, if cousins had to go somewhere for the weekend or visit, they'd visit our house, you know, so because there's already two families there, right?
Yeah.
So I had a lot of influences, and I come from a very good place. Luckily, nothing terrible happened to me, except for, you know, because it's a big family, we've had deaths and things.
Life happens.
Life happens. Yeah. But there are people who do have terribly unfortunate circumstances that for one reason or another they didn't get over, or it happened to them when they were a child. And I think we all have to realize that, because we may be blessed, and that other people might have a very different story, and to give everybody a little break, I guess.
So I want to make this point before we kind of wrap things up, Ken.
Okay.
So again, I've known Ken for about 14 and a half years since we opened business. I think I first met Ken at maybe a chamber meeting, and then got to know him through the business and so forth. One day, not so long ago, you walk in the store, we're having a conversation like you always do, openly about things, and I talk about a little bit about my past. All of a sudden, you make a connection to who and where I'm from. Say, hey, I got a story for you. I actually know some people from that town.
Yeah.
We exchanged some names. Very good friend of mine that I haven't talked to or seen in about 20 years. Ken goes, oh, I know that guy. And we get reconnected.
I love that
We get
guy.
reconnected. So you wonder, you know, when you talk to somebody that you don't know, and I do not have to, but I do a lot of it in the cafe because it's part of the business model, right? I got to chat a bit and play the role.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's like, you connected me back to an old friend, and I don't know you've met him, really.
Right.
I don't know you going back, but now I feel connected to you at some level, because
on a different level, right?
Yeah, because you're connected to people that I know, and have stories with them, and they think very highly of you. I talk to my buddy all the time, and I'm not going to mention his name because I know he watches these shows, but it's awesome. I think it's great.
Well, you know, one of the first times I was in Ottawa setting up a show, a woman comes up to me and says, do you need any help? And I said, yeah. And she goes, oh, I have a young lad who's looking for a job. And so later on that day, this guy comes, and he's maybe 19 or so years old, and he comes and he's dressed in like a suit, you know, sports jacket and a suit. And my brother and I are working together at the time, and I hire him. And over the years, he was a brother of your friend, and you knew him, right, from Grand Cache.
Yeah.
And they had just moved not that long from Grand Cache to this area. And since then, in that time frame, every person in their family worked for me.
Yeah.
Every brother, they had 4 brothers, right? And they all worked for me, and I still see them, and they're a great family. I love that family,
Yeah.
and I had great times with them, and still see them. So, yeah, it is funny. We call that Jewish geography. When you
Jewish
so
geography.
if you saw somebody and you met them and they were Jewish, and they'd say, "Oh, I'm from Toronto," you'd go, "Do you know Reuben Schwartz?" And that's how
Yeah.
Before you know it, you're always talking about associates and trying to
7 degrees of separation, or
yeah,
whatever
7
that's
degrees
called.
of separation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to say, Ken? We're gonna wrap it up here.
I'd give one thing of advice that I really believe in. Every person should try to find one thing a day that they love and do it every day or enjoy, and just to try to make a normal day into something that they love. Like I think people have seen me riding my new trike around town.
Yes.
And man, it's changed my life. It's my new love of my life, and I try to get out there because I feel so good after I do it. All the endorphins, and I think if I had one wish for everybody and advice, I'd say if you could find one thing that gives you joy, whether it's seeing your grandchild or helping someone, but try to do it, because life can be a little dull sometimes. We're watching the TV.
It can be dull, and then you realize it's been short.
Yes, but it's spectacular. On the other hand, there's so much beauty and in life, and
There's a song that always comes to my mind when I think about that, and it's called "Enjoy Yourself, It's Later Than You Think." Enjoy yourself, it's later than you think. Enjoy yourself while you're still in the pink. And it's true. Like, enjoy yourself. Embrace what's happening around you on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Don't get into a funk. Don't get into a rut.
No.
Try to be creative. I mean, I do this to keep my mind kind
this is a
of
great
stimulated, and I enjoy chatting with people, so it's perfect, really.
Yeah.
And so make sure you continue to watch Espresso Shots.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll be at home watching TV.
Exactly.
I'll be out of work.
And you should keep doing it. Otherwise, I am home watching TV. And yes. So my love to everyone out there. You're all part of my life, and I really appreciate it.